Just some of the guys that are banged up, like Austin Mack and Baron Browning, some of those guys, Coop. Can you speak on just how important it is to get them back for the stretch run, and are you optimistic you might get some of those guys back?
Yeah, certainly optimistic to get those guys back. It'll be good to get them back, and we were overly cautious probably a little bit last week, but yeah, looking forward to have those guys ready.
And especially 10 games into a season, how do you feel about the overall health of your team and all the blowouts? How has that helped that situation for you?
Well, I think we're fresh. I think we're healthy and fresh at this point of the year, which is great.
Front row middle, Joey.
Ryan, this is kind of maybe the way the schedule worked out, kind of different, where you have Penn State and Michigan back to back. If you had like a magic marker and could devise the Big Ten schedule, would you rather play Penn State in October instead of so close to Michigan, or are you fine with it?
Again, I think it's all computer generated, so it doesn't really matter. And like I told the guys, we don't make the schedule, and all we do is, we're going to just take 1 week at a time and worry about the things we can control.
And Sean Clifford's been their quarterback. Obviously, this will be your first time playing him after playing Trace McSorley for all those years. What do you think makes him unique as a passer?
I don't know what makes him unique as a passer. I think as a quarterback, he has a good combination of escapabilities, got good spatial awareness. He can get himself out of trouble, accurate throwing the ball. You can tell he's competitive and tough and well prepared and a good leader.
Front row left, Mitch.
Ryan, Justin was a few weeks ago was talking about his schedule and how all of his classes are online, and I'm wondering, how much are you aware of whether the players have online classes, are going to class, have to go to class on a certain time, and do you prefer that online situation because it gives them more flexibility for football?
Yeah, we're aware of everything. I mean, we make sure we know every week we go through on a Thursday meeting and go through every single class for every single guy on our team at length. That's a long meeting. We make sure we're up to the minute on what's going on. So for sure we know everything that's going on. And I think the online classes, bring some benefits to the table for sure. And it's kind of different than the way we all grew up, very not face-to-face, but it gives those guys some more flexibility. And so I think, a good mixture of the in-person and then also online classes is good.
Second row right, Kyle.
What are some of the under-the-radar things that Justin has improved on in his passing game this season, other than just simply he's throwing the ball better?
I mean, I think it's all the above. I think every week he gets a little, better in each area. So it goes all the way from, in the run game, identifying where he's going to go with the ball, because you have to make a decision on just about every run game or every play in the run game. And in passing, it's protections, it's identifying coverage, it's going through protections, it's understanding down and distance, throwing it away, anticipation, all the above.
And were you on the scout team at all in New Hampshire?
Yeah.
Just, I guess, kind of speak to how difficult that job is, and are there some, I don't know, one or two guys that kind of shine every week on the scout team here this year?
There's a lot of guys. We give the Scout Team Player of the Week award. We actually 4 guys each week, 2 on offense, 2 on defense, 1 skill, 1 line. And those guys are just as important as anybody else. The look is so critically important. And there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys who started off on the scout team that are playing on special teams or playing right now. And that's a great opportunity every day to go against really good players and to, get better.
Far left, Lori.
Coach, how much of you wants to see your players absorb and enjoy the pageantry of this weekend, and specifically senior day on Saturday, and how much of you would prefer that they be in a hermetically sealed bubble where all they're focused on is what they have to do their 111?
Yeah, I think it's easy to say enjoy the experience and say that. I think it's harder to do, but we will talk about that, and we talk about that each week. You got to enjoy it because time waits for nobody, and you have to grab onto this thing and hold on as tight as you can because this is a special opportunity for all of us, and we have to make sure we understand that. And I think our guys do understand that. I think that they have appreciated each other and the moments, but in big games like this, you're just so focused on what's going on. Sometimes it's hard to really appreciate it all until it's all over.
Urban, even at the end of his tenure, was talking about how special his first class of seniors was because it helped him to establish the foundation of what he wanted to accomplish here. I imagine your feelings toward your senior class is similar heading into this weekend?
Yeah, there's no question. We've been through a lot in the last couple of years, and love these guys with all my heart. And they've become family. And so certainly for those guys who are having their last game in the stadium like that, it is going to be emotional. And they deserve everything that they get in terms of praise and admiration from everybody in Buckeye Nation for what they've done. And it is a special group.
Second row left, Bill.
Ryan, I think you have, if I have the number right, a dozen fifth-year scholarship seniors on this team. Kind of a high number for a place like this. Just how have you seen that dynamic impact your roster this year?
I think the maturity level is off the charts. I just think having grown men in your program, I mean, if they've been in our program for 5 years, they're grown men. And just the approach, they're almost like player coaches. And, they know what's right, and they're around the team, and the young guys more than we are. And there's a self-police going on right there, and those guys, mentor the younger guys and want to leave a legacy behind. I've heard that several times from many of the players. So having maturity like that is important, because you can tell guys until you're blue in the face about, if we don't show up this week, here's what can happen. But guys who have been through it before and have those scars, it's a little bit more real.
How much do you and your staff talk with guys about their individual recruiting classes leaving an impact on the program? There's some guys from 2015 whose class started kind of wonky, but they seem to be finishing out the career strong. I just don't know if you measure that at all.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I think that they have relationships they built when they came in together. There's a bond there when you come in as a group, but we don't talk about it all that much. There was a couple moments last spring where we grabbed one of the classes and said, now it's time to grow up. No longer are you freshmen. It's time for you guys to now step up. And so we'll do that, a little bit in the off season, but overall, it's not something we focus on.
Front row right, Austin.
Ryan, what's made KJ such a good fit for what you want to do with the passing game?
I think KJ just got a tremendous way of just playing the game. He's got great body language for a quarterback. Like, certain receivers they know how to get open and they know how to talk to the quarterback with their body language. He understands space. He knows how to get open. He's crafty. He's been around. He's clutch. When you just think about all the plays he's made in his career, it's pretty amazing. And the production that he's had is off the charts. And it goes back, KJ's he's not 4'3", he's not 6'5", but he just has a way, like I think Bill Belichick says about the best thing about a receiver is he gets open and he catches the ball. And that's what KJ does.
It just seems like, I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase this. Like, last year they had the three seniors and he chose to come back, but they overshadowed him a little bit. There's been a lot of talk about Olave or Garrett Wilson this year, the whole thing. It just seems like he's on the brink of these records, but has never really had the spotlight to himself. What is it, about him that has made him so valuable?
Well, I mean, our team knows, in this room right here, when we have our team, the spotlight is on him because he is a team captain and one of the more decorated receivers in the history of the school, and his production, again, speaks for itself. But, and he kind of a leader by example in the way he goes about his business. And but again, I just think it's all those things. Some guys are just competitively tough. They understand, again, how space works and how to get open and how to find the open window and how to win against man-to-man and all those things. That's KJ, and he's left a lot of that into that room, and there's a lot of those younger guys that have learned from him this year.
Third row left, Dan.
Ryan, you guys seem to be a little more aggressive passing the ball the last couple of games. Was any of that calculated looking ahead to this game and seeing how strong Penn State's run defense has been?
No, not really. No, it was just something that was a focus coming off the bye week. Is we just wanted to do a little bit better job throwing and catching the ball, and also in some of those games we want to get the throws in a little bit earlier in the game if we think it's going to go the way it's been the last couple of weeks. And so typically in games that get a little lopsided, we have to run the ball a little bit more in the second half. And so when you look back on those games, you want to make sure that guys like KJ and guys like Ben and those guys are getting touches. So that's a little bit calculated going into those games.
When you look at this Penn State defense, and I think they're number one right now in yards per carry allowed, how important is it for Justin to be ready to have to put the team on his back if that situation?
Oh yeah, I mean of course he has to. I mean that's what he has to be ready for. That's what he's working for all week is to be in that game and. Come down and win the game in the fourth quarter like J.T. Barrett did, like Dwayne Haskins did the year before. I mean, that's the game we're in, so it's going to take everything we have.
Third row left, Edward.
Ryan, was Chase Young able to practice the last couple of weeks? And if so, how much was he able to do?
Yeah, he's been practicing. He wasn't really involved in the game plan the last couple of weeks, but he has been practicing, and Larry's been doing some extra work with him on the field drill-wise, but now he's right back to practicing with the defense.
And what sort of pitch count, if any, is he on this week and the game on Saturday?
No, he'll be playing.
Far left, Matt.
The stakes of this game are obvious with both teams. With a game like this, do you even have to bring that up? Is it all X's and O's? I mean, what a win would mean you're already in Indianapolis. Could you just talk about the dynamic of that and how much you talk about that versus this is just another game plan?
Well, I think our team knows what's at stake. We've talked about that, but now it's time to just focus on Penn State. And this is a talent-equated game. We all know we've been in some games that we've had more talent than some of the other teams we played. This is a team that talent equates, and so when that happens, it goes back to discipline, it goes back to fundamentals, it goes back to toughness, all of those things that come into play when your talent no longer matters. And so those are the things, and we got to do a good job putting a good game plan together, let the guys play, and then prepare them to go, and then the team who's more prepared will win the game.
There's a lot of stuff that goes when you have a big game like this. ESPN's here, Fox is here, all this stuff. Is it more difficult coaching-wise to make sure everybody's focused? It sounds strange to say because it's such a big game, but with all the distractions, it's even senior day and things like that. Is that something you have to work on with the staff, or are you not worried so much?
No, I mean, I think that goes hand in hand with being in Ohio State. When you're to where we are at this point of the year, it's expected. You're going to have a lot of eyes here, but a lot of eyes are on us every week. And I talked to the guys about that even last week. Being at Rutgers, maybe it didn't feel like that, but the whole nation was watching. And if you don't show up to play, then you put yourself at risk. So it's the same thing week in and week out. And certainly, if we knew we'd get to this point, we knew this game was going to be like this, so we're prepared.
Right, Bill.
I've asked you this before. You've been asked plenty of times. We thought maybe Cincinnati, we thought maybe Wisconsin, Michigan State, that this would be a game where you truly were tested. You're 10 games in and you really haven't been. At this point of the year, having gone through 10 games, how confident are you that when you are tested, if you're facing real adversity in the fourth quarter, this team is ready?
Well, I think in the Wisconsin game, I mean, we were only up 3 points there in the third quarter, and I think that was the one time I can look back and say, yeah, we had adversity at that point. We responded. So I feel good about that. Now whether we do or not, that's going to be based on what happens in this game, and that's why you play the game to find out. But I look back on that moment as a point where our backs were against the wall and we did respond.
And you mentioned that in this game, talent is equated. Could you kind of give a rundown of Penn State and what especially concerns you? What phases of their game? What players really concern you?
Yeah, first off, James is an excellent coach and does a great job with the program and motivating everybody involved there, and has done that for a long time. He knows how to win in big games, prepare guys in all three phases. I think their coordinators are excellent. I think Ricky Ronnie and Brent Pry do a really good job schematically, creating a lot of problems, but also being fundamentally sound. And then they have the players on offense. I think Clifford's playing really well. Hamler's more dynamic players in the country. I think Dotson's as good a wide receiver as there is in the Big Ten. And Freiermuth and some of those other guys are really talented as well. So I think you got a skill set over there, guys that can really hurt you. And then on defense, Micah Parsons is as talented as there is, again, in the conference. They do a good job up front with their front. They mix those guys in. Sean Spencer, the D-line coach, does a good job of rolling those guys in and out. They got a lot of depth there. And then really those guys have played a lot of football. I mean, Reed has played a lot of football. There's a lot of guys in the back end who have some experience there. So when you combine the experience with the good coaching and the fundamentally, sound schemes, that they pose a major problem for us. And so it's going to be a big challenge.
Second row right, Tony.
Ryan, you talked about talent being equated. This will be probably the third time you've faced maybe the best run defense in the Big Ten. You've responded really well the first two times against Michigan State and Wisconsin, I'm guessing. I'm wondering what allows you to do that? You mentioned toughness. How much of that is in play when you're able to do this against defenses that don't normally allow that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge for us because they're very, very good at what they do. And you have to figure out ways schematically to go at them and figure out how you're going to defeat their schemes. But then at the end of the day, it comes back to what we talked about, which is toughness. and getting the game to the fourth quarter and then wearing them down and then doing everything you can to go win the game in the fourth quarter.
February, January?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right behind him, Bob.
You touched on this earlier, the quarterback-receiver relationship. Sometimes a quarterback has that guy who focuses on. What makes that work? You've done this a long time with quarterbacks. Is there any danger in locking in and depending a quarterback on a certain guy, a Fields to an Olave or there? How do you work that through in practice? And
Yeah,
it's
well,
good and bad, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think that's why we roll our receivers. That's why, whether it's 7-on-7 or teamwork, we roll those guys constantly. So everybody's getting work with each other. But you're not, as a quarterback, you're not just picking out your favorite receiver. I mean, it's all based on coverage. It's based on progressions. It's based on what the defense is giving us. And, if KJ Hill is the first read in the progression and he's open, then he's going to get the ball. And if he's not, then something's wrong. If he's not, then it goes on to the next guy. Now, part of that is, do you get open, especially versus man-to-man coverage? If it's zone, then you have to space it out, and the timing has to be right. So those are all the conversations that go with it. And, guys do have, better chemistry with each other. That happens. But I think the more they play with each other, the better off it is. Yeah.
Is that what creates the chemistry? Just that sort of, it works, and so it continues to work?
I think so. And I think the communication and the time they spend together talking about different things and, how much work they want to put into figuring out coverages and talking things out in the game plan helps as well.
You spoke on this after the game. It's almost a catch-22. The better you guys have been collectively, it's hurt individual stats in a sense. How much of a tug is that for you to try to work through that whole thing? It's a challenge. It is what it is.
It is. Yeah.
Frustrating?
No, it's not frustrating. I mean, shoot, it's a good problem to have. I'm sure people look at me like, what is he frustrated about? But it's, for those guys, I get it too. They're competitive. They want to be out there. They want to have production, and they are. They're producing at a high level. So there's a lot of football ahead of them, and they know that. They know that. In these games here, I mean, it's going to take everything we have to win the game. So very, very different than maybe the last couple of weeks.
Second row middle, Bruce.
In your 2 years here, the Penn State game has been unique, and you've been down by 2 scores in the fourth quarter both times. Take me through the dynamic of working with the guys upstairs, you as a play caller, communicating on the field. Is it different then than it is during the game because of the urgency, or what has to work in those moments for the dynamic to come together and for you to be able to do what you've done?
Yeah, I mean, those games were no different other than the fact that we were down and looking to come back. I feel like in the last couple of years, we felt like we had good stuff. We just weren't executing great. In the first game, we turned the ball over. The second game, we hit the tight end in the head with the ball. I mean, it was a great throw, and it was a turnover in the game. There was just some of those things that went on in that game, and we just felt like we had the right stuff, and we just had to hang in there. So, we've talked to our guys about that even this week. We got to come out to a fast start. That in the first game, the opening kickoff return for a touchdown. We kind of put ourselves behind the 8 ball in those games, and then, but to answer your question, it's just communication and just trying to figure out, like, do we need new plays, or are the plays working? We're just not executing them very well. And when you go against good defenses, things like that happen.
So I wondered, in those situations, by definition, what you're doing is not working, or you wouldn't be down. So are you, as a play caller in those situations, are you thinking, all right, what's on page 35 of the playbook rather than the first couple that I plan to use this week? Are you looking for something you haven't tried, or how do you make a judgment on, no, this is good, what we plan to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday will work, we just have to do it a little differently?
Yeah, I think that's the art of coaching, is figuring out, is it the right thing that we just need to execute better, or is the play no good? And that's based on, the different styles of defense that you play against, and then measuring the plays that your guys know, and then, trying to, give the defense something new to look at.
What's it been in these 2 games, like the play to Ben Victor and the JK screen pass, and were those things that you had tried and they just worked better?
Those were executed well, but then there were also a lot of calls in there that, we wish we had back, that really schematically weren't great. And then some other ones that were pretty good ideas that we didn't execute, and then sometimes it's just the defense playing well. This is, again, a very well-coached defense, and they've been the last couple of years. They've been really good on defense. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be a give and take, and you can't panic because we've had so much success that when we hit a little bit of adversity, we can't start reeling. We just have to hang in there and keep swinging at it, and we'll crack it.
Second row left, Ari.
Ryan, you said this is a talent-equated game, and I believe that's the first time you've said that this year. This is the most talented roster that you guys have faced. I'm wondering, does that change the way that you guys prepare for a game in any way? And when you get into a situation where you're facing an opponent, and now a string of opponents probably that are going to have enough talent to give you guys a battle, is your gut instinct to open things up, try new things, do new things, or is it to do what you do best and do it better? Like, how does your mindset as a coach change when you're playing a team that has that talent?
Well, I just think every play matters, every yard matters, every series matters. You just have to make sure you understand how important every play is in a game like this, more than anything else. Because in maybe some of those other games, it's like, well, if you didn't get it that series, we'll get the ball back here pretty quick, we'll be okay. Well, that's not the case in something like this. You know, we mentioned it just coming off of the game, you know, on Saturday. You know, I mean, you turn the ball over like we did and they score a touchdown, that could be the difference in the game. That was the difference in the Indiana game last week. And so we just have to be mature enough to understand how important every series, every play is, and that it might just be one play that you know, changes the game. And I can't really say that maybe we've been in a game where that's been the case this year. So understanding that for as coaches, but understanding that as players is going to be huge.
When you go through an entire schedule like this, and, you know, frankly, you haven't been able to say that, right? And no disrespect to some of the previous teams that you've played, but I'm wondering, how much do you guys think ahead during the season to teams that have the talent to match up? And is it something that you don't have the luxury like you did in previous weeks where, you know, you could run what you run at the base level and be just fine? Are you preparing for games like this weeks in advance, thinking about ways to, you know, get an edge when the talent might be close to equal?
Yeah, and we don't even it doesn't matter who we're playing. I mean, we spend a lot of time game planning and respect everybody, and you know, try to change it up and mix it up. And great example of that is doing an onside kick, you know, a couple weeks ago, you know. And so if it's there, we're going to be aggressive. We're going to go after it. So you know, it's one of those things. You build your offense, defense, and special teams as the season goes on, and just get stronger and stronger and stronger. And just all you really focus on is that game. You start getting ahead of yourselves, that's where you get yourself again in trouble. So you certainly want to build it up and kind of build your packages up as you go, but at the same time, it's all about winning that game at that moment.
Far left, Mark?
Already been asked and answered.
Oh, okay. Move over here to the right, Don.
That's the first time I heard that.
Coach, when you look at them, just what jumps out on tape, and what's this week like game planning against a club like this?
Yeah, it's a lot of hours. It's a lot of work. No stones unturned, and it's our job as coaches to give the guys a good plan, to let them play fast and be schematically sound. But what jumps off the tape is, you know, how strong and physical they are. You know, they do a good job of making sure that they're fresh. They roll guys, and they got an edge to them.
How about the 12th man? Any message for the fans this week?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, this is for so many reasons. This is the biggest one of the year, and we need everybody in the seat. We need everybody really loud. Make it really hard for their offense to communicate. You know, they're going to do a lot of checking at the line of scrimmage and communicating. So we need everybody. Every time Penn State has the ball, we need them to be as loud as they possibly can. It doesn't matter whether it's third down, doesn't matter what it is, because every play they're trying to communicate. They're trying to tell the line what the play is. They're going to try to tell the receivers what the play is, change plays, and that gives them an advantage. But if our crowd's loud, it makes it very hard for them to communicate that. So, yeah, I mean, anything we can do to be as loud as possible, that will make it harder for them. And then this is what an opportunity to go out and you know, send our seniors out the right way as their last time playing in the Horseshoe, and I know that means a lot to everybody in Buckeye Nation, and it's going to mean a lot to our team to see, you know, everybody out there loud and ready to roll at noon.
Right behind you, Clay.
Last 3 games in the series have been decided by a combined 5 points. JK was asked after the Rutgers game about, you know, these are probably going to be 4-quarter games the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. And he said, well, who says it's going to be a 4-quarter game? Do you appreciate that confidence?
Oh, yeah, for sure. You know, I mean, JK's played a lot of football. He knows exactly what we're into this week, but I think he's excited to play in 4 quarters. You know, it's been a couple weeks since he's been able to do that. So, you know, he's obviously very competitive and can't wait to play in the game. He's looking forward to it.
Right, Tim?
Yeah, 2 quickies. Number one, talking about the playbook, et cetera. How deep have y'all gone into your playbook either page-wise or gigabyte-wise. I don't even know if you keep it on a real book anymore, but and is there a propensity to always keep stuff available? I know there is, but I mean,
Yeah.
speak to that. I mean, you're 10 games into the year. How much more could there be in this book?
I mean, yeah, we have most of the stuff in. You always look in a weekly, game plan, trying to figure out ways to tweak things here and there, or change the looks up, or come up with some new things here and there. And again, so much of it is based on the guys that you have, and every year it takes a different journey, And when you think about 2 years ago, you think about last year, and you think about now. I mean, there's certain things that are in common, but it's very different too. Just some of the schemes that we've run, and again, I think that's good coaching, is being able to recognize what your guys do best, and then adapting from there.
But it seems like y'all always come up with an answer the last several years, Ryan. I mean, do you have that sense when you're standing there, when you're talking, to you guys on the headphones, that there is an answer?
Yeah, and I think that's part of it too. Is if you have too much stuff, all of a sudden you can't execute it very well. If you have not enough stuff, then you get into a game and you're like, oh man, we don't have anything here, and that's a bad feeling too. So again, that balance is really critical in a game like this. You want to allow them to play fast and not have too much stuff, but have enough ammunition.
The quickie, that moment against Wisconsin, moment of truth, so to speak, early third quarter, early in that game against Michigan State, when they were throwing haymakers too, defensively and stuff. What were the conversations like between you and the guys upstairs? Were you impressed by how y'all were handling things? I mean, was it cool and calm like air traffic controllers, or was anybody screaming? What was it like?
If anybody was screaming, it was probably me. I think everybody was pretty calm at that moment. I think we knew what we were going to get ourselves into, and what you can't do is panic in those moments, and you just have to keep swinging away at it and have confidence that it's it's going to crack, that you have the right things, and it's really just figuring out what are they in, what plays do we like, and then at that moment, all right, guys, let's get the guys together and talk to them, and that's really what it comes down to.
Got time for a couple more. Front row left, Doug.
Ohio State in 16, 17, and 18 moved a veteran guard to center for 1 year. You have a younger guy, a third-year guy at center now. You have a true freshman backing up at center. You have a highly rated center recruit coming in here. Did you guys want to change something in terms of trying to develop younger centers rather than relying on moving some guys late?
I mean, again, I wasn't here then, so I know that Harry Miller has done an unbelievable job of getting himself to a point where he's highly functioning as a center, which for a freshman is unheard of, really. And so he's doing a great job. Josh has played center since I've been here. He really didn't play guard, and so it kind of just depends on your roster and the kind of dynamic you have in that room. But if you feel like you have a young guy that you want to develop at center, I think it's best to get him at center and let him learn, because he's got to make all those calls. And then as he gets older, you can always move him. It's hard to move a guard to a center. That was hard on Mike Jordan last year. He did a great job, but it's a lot easier to move a center to a guard, in my opinion, than it is the other way around.
How do you guys decide who you're going to send out to catch a punt? And not to call anybody out, but when you have a young guy muff a punt, how will that affect decision making going forward?
Yeah, we decide during the week who's going to do it, and then sometimes we roll guys. But we have confidence in Garrett. He's certainly a young player who made a mistake, and he's going to learn from it and move on. But he's going to practice better, and again, a lot of it goes back to how you practice. If you're going to practice, intently and do a good job with that, then yeah, we're going to have confidence because we see it in practice. If for whatever reason we don't see it in practice, then we have to make a decision. But he'll practice well this week.
And to follow up on what you've sort of been asked about, I mean, the last two Penn State games, again, you guys scored 2 touchdowns in the last 5 minutes, 2 touchdowns in the last 7 minutes to pull these things out. In that moment for you as the play caller, are you completely calm? Is there electricity in your body? Are you confident? Are you worried? Is that what you live for? Are those the moments you hope you never get in that spot? What's that really like? Because, I mean, these guys play you tough.
When you sit there and think about that, it's hard to remember. It's hard for me to remember what those feelings were like, because you're in the game. I guess it'd be like asking, a guy who's playing in the game, how are you feeling in this moment? I was just playing, I was just coaching. I think that's really what it is. And, you're not really thinking, you're just reacting, you're competing. And then once the game, gets over, I remember last year running up to Coach Meyer on the field and be like, what just happened? And you just don't realize it until you get done with the game. You're like, that really happened? and because you're doing everything you can to try to get the right plays in and make sure the guys are in the right spot and do everything you can. So hard to remember exactly what was going on.
And just the idea of, again, talking about how close the games have been with Penn State. So many teams have trouble playing Ohio State tough. You guys are really good. Is there something to the idea that a program can have a stronger belief of, hey, we can hang with these guys? Like, do you think Penn State coming into this game maybe has a different idea than many teams you play because they have proof of, well, you know, Ohio State beat us the last 2 years, but we pushed them right to the wire?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and the year before they won, right? I mean, so absolutely, they're a very, very good team, and obviously they felt like they should have won both those games. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to come in here with a tremendous amount of confidence.
And final question, seventh row right, Jeremy?
Ryan, obviously, all the factors this weekend, the de facto championship game for the division, senior day. You have probably the biggest recruiting weekend of your year also coming up. How do you and your coaches handle all that stuff and still find time to make sure that you're prioritizing guys who are making their way here for a media?
For a game like this, it's very difficult to spend a lot of time with those guys. There's just so much at stake, and I think most recruits understand that. They want to come and feel the atmosphere. They want to see what it's like to be here for a big game and feel that. That's what they're looking for, in my opinion, on a visit like this. They're not looking for a lot of one-on-one time with the coach or learn about our Real Life Wednesday program or anything like that. That's not what this visit is, and I talk to the guys all the time. Every visit, you're looking to check off a box, and this is a box to check off, what it's going, to be playing for the Big Ten championship, and so Mark and our recruiting staff got their hands full. I mean, we got a lot of people coming in, and they're going to have to be really organized and do a great job. But to answer your question about the coaches, then it's not going to get much face time because we're just so focused on this game.
Is there a handful or a subset of guys who you can get here on Friday, maybe better, or stay later, or how do you work that out with the individual?
Yeah. I mean, based on if they're still in the playoffs and if they have a game Friday night or not, we try to get them here early. Sometimes it's hard to get hotel rooms. I mean, there's a lot of logistical stuff that everybody on the staff is working on. But even on Fridays, they're not going to get much out of us. I have a hard time, before games, really focusing on talking to recruits and their families when there's such a big game like this. It's just the way it is. And then I'll hang with them all night afterwards. But it's just kind of the way it goes.